our, say our forms an instant bridge between you and me. When you say our, we have become so disconnected as a society. And let me tell you this thing that we call virtual reality, by having social networks, whether it's on MySpace or Facebook or Twitter, and you're connected to these folks, a person can have 600 friends on Facebook and yet still feel alone and not have anybody that they're connected with to be able to share their heart about things that are going on in their life. You need real relationships. We are so disconnected as people having real friends in our life. And so you'll never really have any more than 5 real, bona fide, genuine friends over the course of your life. Get some real friends, of somebody you can talk to and somebody who can walk with you, because cyberspace doesn't feel good if you're sitting in the hospital by yourself, or if you just lost somebody and you're sitting there trying to tweet and put a message on Facebook because you are devastated over the loss of a loved one. You need somebody there whose presence speaks to you. And when you say our, it says that I am not alone. This tiny word forms an immediate bridge between you and me. The hour of the prayer does not distinguish between classes or categories. You can be educated or uneducated. When you say our, both of you are together. You can be tall and short, fat and skinny, pretty and ugly, and our bridges you together. You can be Jew and Gentile, and our immediately bridges you together. There's no distinction when you say our. It bridges you immediately when you say our. It speaks of a shared experience. It speaks of shared ownership. It speaks of community. When you say my and mine, that produces isolation and aloneness. So does you and your. But the unifying our produces an entirely different dynamic. When we get hurt, our feels dangerous. Abuse can make us fearful of togetherness. But despite the message of the Western culture, personal fulfillment lies in connection, not autonomy. Did you know that wealth is created through connection? Through connection. Through connection. You're not going to find anybody who's become extremely wealthy and then they're doing everything themselves. You got to be connected with folks. Wealth is always created through connection. Spirituality is the discovery of the fundamental connection that exists between us and God. That's what spirituality is. It is the discovery of the fundamental connection between us and God. And so for Jesus, prayer itself becomes a corporate act. No longer me and God, but us and God. And we cannot love God if we do not love our brother. 1 John chapter 4 and verse 20. And we cannot be one with him if we have a disregard for the unity of the body of Christ. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 3 through 6. Every time that we open our mouths to say our Father, we should be reminded of our adoption, that we have been grafted into Christ and we've been placed in this intimate relationship with God. It is a relationship that we didn't have by nature. It's a relationship that has been won for us by the perfect obedience of the Son, who received that inheritance and then he gave it to us as brothers and sisters who are in him. So to speak of the fatherhood of God is also to speak of the brotherhood. When you say our Father, it speaks of the brotherhood. Now this was a dangerous thing when Jesus' disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray, as John taught his disciples to pray. He didn't say how to pray. He said, teach us to pray. This is a dangerous request to ever make of the Lord, because if you ever ask God to teach you to pray, all hell is getting ready to break loose in your life. When you ask God, there's no better way that God can teach you to pray than to send such challenge, such controversy, such opposition, such adversity, such affliction into your life that you cannot handle it by yourself, and you have to cry out and say, God, help me. And that's why it's not about the particular set of words, but when you ask Jesus, teach me to pray, you might lose your job and not have any means of making ends, and your unemployment is about to run out. You'll learn how to pray. If you get sick and the doctor said that there is no cure, you will learn how to pray. When somebody close to you dies and you feel like you want to die with them, you learn how to pray. Teach me, God, to pray. Not how to pray, to pray. If you ever get hurt bad enough, you will pray. Even when you get in a foxhole, there are no atheists. You will pray. If you get scared enough, you will pray. If you hurt bad enough, you will pray. If you lose enough, you will pray. Teach us, God, to pray. There'll be enough stuff going wrong. Your children will go crazy. Your spouse will go crazy. You will learn to pray. You might not have been a person of prayer, but God will teach you to pray.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
To us to be able to glean these messages from the Lord's Prayer. As the model prayer began, it teaches us about community just by always using the word our and us and not me and mine. It teaches us that God is our priority and that God is the center of our concern. It is thy name, hallowed be thy name. It is thy kingdom come. It is thy will. It is God focused. This is not focused on us. When you pray, you become Godward. Thy kingdom, this thy name, hallowed be thy name. This is about your name, not about who I am. It's about thy name. It's about your kingdom, not my trying to build my kingdom. This is about thy will, not trying to establish my will. But it also teaches us about our brothers and sisters by the constant care and the prayer for them. See, this is not a selfish prayer. It doesn't say, give me this day my daily bread. It's give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us, not just selfish talking about me. Deliver us from temptation. This is about the us. Us always means more than just me. This is a petition for our basic needs to be met. What are our basic needs? Our basic needs are for provision. Say provision. Our basic needs are for pardon. Say pardon. And our basic needs are for protection. Say protection. This is the essence of what our human needs are about. Provision, pardon, and protection. Give us this day. That's about provision. Forgive us. That's about pardon. And lead us not into temptation. That is about protecting us from the evil one. It's about provision, pardon, protection. It's about all of these things. And no child of God should ever be left in this world feeling like they're alone, but they ought to be included in the family of our Father. May I just tell you that I really honestly believe that the whole earth is groaning. You wonder what in the world is going on? We saw the earthquake in Haiti, in Chile, in China. Just this morning, an earthquake in Papua New Guinea. And volcanic ash spewing up from Iceland that has shut down flights from 15 different countries around the world that can't even fly over to Europe, has paralyzed them. The president of Poland is dead and folks can't go to the funeral internationally. And when volcanic ash is coming up saying, don't pass this way, it reminds me of when God was a pillar of fire by night and the Egyptian army was there saying, don't come this way. And every now and then, God will just do some things to stop us. And they said that the impact of it is $200 million a day to the airline industry. When you have that kind of interruption to your business, God gets your attention real quick. But the whole earth is groaning for the manifestation of the sons of God. It is groaning, saying, give us the children of God. Where are God's children? Somebody who's a son and a daughter is saying, where are God's children? God is saying, where are my children? God is a father. When we declare the fatherhood of God, it also declares the brotherhood of man. And so it says that we are called to be brothers and sisters, and God says the way that these folks are acting down there, they are not acting like my children, and God is groaning. Everything that he has created is bubbling up and shaking and saying, where is my son? Where is my daughter? Have you ever had your child to misbehave in such a way that you wonder whose child is that? And then when they act crazy, you blame the craziness on your mate's side of the family? But he's our Father. And this simple phrase of where he says our, that calls us into community. When Jesus said, pray after this manner, not one jot or one tittle. You know what a tittle is? A tittle is the little period that goes over the I. That's a tittle. God says not even a tittle of this word shall pass away. That means that every word that God speaks or has written is pregnant with power, potential, and revelation. Every word. So when he says our, that speaks of community. When he says Father, that speaks of family. The word family literally means father's house. When he says family, and that speaks of intimacy. Our speaks of community. Father speaks of intimacy. And then notice our Father in heaven. Say in heaven. This simple phrase, in heaven, pulls us into a cosmic, heavenly perspective of life. Because in the 18th and 19th century, blacks were under the bonds of slavery, and they wrote spirituals like swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Did you realize that what was happening here is that black slaves had a heavenly view that got them through the hard circumstances of their day. You see, this spiritual was written from the perspective of Elijah's miraculous ascent into the heavens that bore testimony to a greater reality that awaits us. The heavenly reality that no amount of slavery and no amount of mistreatment could diminish. You see, there's something about our heavenly perspective. If you always are looking at things from an earthly perspective, you are not high enough. You got to get over what's trying to get you down. Our vision of the heavenly realm can sustain us through some of the most difficult of days and circumstances, because what it does is that it births hope amid hardship, and then it nurtures faith amid opposition. We ought to have a heavenly perspective of all that we do. You ever notice Hebrews chapter 12, where it talks about let us lay aside every weight? Don't you wish you could lay aside the weight? And the sin that doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And then here comes the heavenly perspective part. Looking unto Jesus. While you're running your race, looking unto Jesus. Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. And then notice it goes on to say, for consider him who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your own soul. The thing that gave Jesus staying power and tenacity is that Jesus had a heavenly perspective. He saw things from the perspective of God. So when Jesus is telling us to pray, our Father who art in heaven, he's saying get God's perspective from the dwelling place of God, because problems look a whole lot different when you're up there than when you're down here. And maybe, see, this part that we're focusing on in this message is about our Father in heaven. And it's ironic that the night before I'm to deliver this message, I spend the night in the heavens, lifted up above the earth, for perspective. And things that look like mountains and hills when you're down here look like a molehill from up there. If you ever get God's perspective, it is not